So today we're going to be doing chapter 4, Handmaid's Tale. We're going to try and get as much of it done as we can. But before that, we're going to review chapter 3 because it's been a while. We've had it all weekend, so I want to make sure we remember a little bit of what happened in chapters 1 through 3. So I want you guys to turn and talk to each other in English and tell each other 3 things that stuck out in the first 3 chapters. Okay?
The commander's wife.
Commander's wife, all right.
Chapter 3 only?
Any of them. First 3 chapters that we read.
Like the angels.
The angels.
Were gone and stand. And gave the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now they are sleeping in a dream.
Yeah, sleeping in the gym. We talked a lot about something that they did at the commander's house. That
Yeah, like they smoke.
They smoke, yeah. And then something that they did to change the commander's house. That
Did to change.
yeah.
Like the mirror.
The mirrors, yeah. What else? What else changed them? Like no mirrors. What else?
I can't remember.
Something that they took out of the ceiling.
Oh, so like there's no place to hang rope
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, they can't hang.
Is
like,
that the commander's home? Or?
yeah, so in all of them. So every commander's home, there's no place for... There's nothing in the home that they could use that could hurt, that the handmaids could use to commit suicide, right? So they can't... They took anything away they could hang a rope from. Anything, the windows don't open all the way, so they can't jump out the window. No sharp objects, so they can't cut themselves, right? So they're trying to they're showing you, Atwood is showing you in a really subtle way that there really are prisoners, but even though they're not in a prison, right?
I think there's also like, if there's like sharp thing or a rope in the house, the handmaid will just like kill the commander.
That's true. It could not be just for the handmaids. It could be for the wife, the commander, any of those. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so I'm going to give you a real brief synopsis of chapter 4, just so you get an overall, and then we're going to go over some vocabulary. So I wrote my synopsis here, and then I'll give you guys your handouts in a second. So in chapter 4, it's still under the title of shopping. So we haven't, when we left chapter 3, Ulfred was had gotten the shopping book, the coupon book, token book from Rita, the Martha, and she's on her way out to go shopping. So that's what ended, chapter 3 ended. And so now we're on to chapter 4, and Ulfred is walking out of the house. And she's going through the gate, headed towards the street, the sidewalk, and she sees a guardian washing his car. Or washing the commander's car, not the guardian's car. And the guardian has a cigarette in his mouth. So again, we have another clue that he may not be following, another person in this household may not be following the rules, right? So the commander's wife had a cigarette, and then now one of these guardians has a cigarette. And this guardian is Nick. So this is where Atwood introduces Nick, who will ultimately be the one who helps Ulfred escape in the story. And here's another really interesting thing that happens. Nick whistles at Ulfred and then winks at her.
So like what whistle means?
So, let me see.
Oh.
Gets her attention, and then when she looks at him, he winks at her.
So is that way to like approach girls?
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah, so he whistles at her and he winks. And so again, we have another clue that he's not following the rules either. All right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that, so she doesn't respond to that because she's not sure if he's testing her. because she knows that a lot of the guardians are also eyes, right? They're the spies, so she doesn't respond. She walks out to the street corner, and then she meets another handmaid, and that handmaid is her partner. And they walk together because, remember, handmaids always have to be with another handmaid, and that's to keep themselves accountable, right? So if one handmaid does something they're not supposed to and breaks the rules, the other handmaid will tell on them, or at least that's what's supposed to happen. And so they meet, they start walking towards the checkpoint. As they're walking, they chit-chat, not really important information, just kind of friendly talk, but nobody wants to share. Neither of them want to share too much because, again, they're not sure how committed they are to the Gileadian society rules. And they get to the checkpoint, and there's 2 young guardians there that man the checkpoint. And so when they get there, the handmaids give them their walking passes, and the guardians slide it through. They call it a CompuCheck. So basically, they're just looking up who these people are, making sure that they match, and then their passes get stamped, saying that verifying that they went through that checkpoint. And then something interesting happens. So these guardians are young. Alfred describes them as they're maybe just very young teenagers, barely being able, like a very light mustache, they look very, very young, still having like pimples on their face, things like that. And one of those guardians tries to tip down and look at her face, tries to get around the wings. And he lets her, or she lets him, and she locks eyes with him, and then he gets embarrassed and turns red. He blushes.
Wait, so is he turned his face red?
Yeah, his face turned red, like when he got embarrassed because he was caught looking at her. Because when he tried to get around her wings, she turned and looked right at him to kind of just set him off a little bit, and make him embarrassed.
That's true.
Yeah.
When we accidentally make eye contact with girls,
It can be embarrassing, huh?
It does.
Yeah. And so this little narrative in chapter 4, this is where Atwood is introducing the eyes, right? So now we have another kind of set of characters that Atwood is introduced in this hierarchy. And then Atwood goes on, or Alfred, the narrator, goes on to describe the van that the eyes use. So it's a dark black van, and it has a white eye painted on it. So everybody knows that that's where the eyes are. And so then the handmaids, they walk through the gate and towards town. And Alfred taunts the guard that blushed, that got embarrassed. She taunts him by, when she walks away, she's swinging her hips like a lot to get his attention while he's walking. And which used to be, I don't know if it is nowadays, but when I was younger, women would do that to get a man's attention. It's like flirting.
Oh.
Yeah, so she flirted with him and kind of was taunting him and teasing him because she knew he had broken the rules. Yeah, so that's a synopsis, and then the chapter ends, and she's headed into town to go shopping. So before we jump into the reading, I want to review some vocabulary, and I'll give you these vocabulary sheets after we're done, but we're just going to check on a few of the words. So, and these are words that I underline. You'll see, well, when I give you the packet, I did give you a packet, you'll see there the words that are underlined, so that if you need to go back and refer to the chapter, you can find the vocabulary. So the first word is humid. Have you guys heard the word humid before, or humidity? It means dampness in the air. So it's like after it rains in Arizona and you can smell the rain, that's the humidity has gone up. If you go to the West Coast, like to California, Oregon, Washington area, and somebody has curly hair, so they're here in Arizona, their hair will be straight, and they go to the humidity and their hair will get very curly. So it just is the moisture that's in the air. Here, I'll give you these so you can, I forgot to give them to you. And then there's a phrase that says, in his own quarters. And that means that it's, quarters are like a room, a bedroom. That's taken from military terminology. So like the general's quarters would be where the general is. Behemoth is a huge, monstrous creature. And you'll see that in the story, in here it says that he's washing his car. And then one of the cars that they talk about is called a behemoth. And that's really interesting because it actually comes from the book of Job in the Bible. So it's another biblical reference that Atwood has thrown in there. So one of the famous cars that commanders will drive is a behemoth. Well, a behemoth is a huge, monstrous creature. So it's kind of like, don't mess with me. I'm the commander, right? And then they describe one of the cars as sleek, which is smooth and shiny. And then I think we'll stop there with that because I think that's all from page. Oh no, we have a few more from page, the first page. So that first page, yeah. So then I added 2 phrases that you'll see at the bottom of the first page, which is smells fishy and I smell a rat. Have you heard anybody say one of those phrases before?
No.
It's like somebody will, like they're suspicious of something. That's fishy, or I smell a rat. So they're both like American phrases that mean I don't trust this or I don't trust you. So something smells off. It's not quite right. Let's say that I walked into the room and there were some students that were supposed to be taking a test. You're in Pfluger's room. He's supposed to be taking a calculus test. He walks out of the room because he needs something. And he comes back in and all of a sudden the students are talking to each other. And he comes back in and as they notice the door open, they sit up straight like, we weren't doing anything. Pfluger might think, I smell a rat in here, or at least one. Something smells fishy. Something's not right going on in this room. Okay.
Do you audit thing tomorrow? What's that?
The what?
Not the audit, but there's something going over the files or something tomorrow?
Yeah, I have to do that with Kimberly.
Is that something I need to be here for?
No, unless you want to be here for.
Did you see they scheduled the day?
I did. I haven't responded yet.
Okay.
So.
Cool. I responded. It was okay with me, but it's up to you guys. It said 8 o'clock in the morning, so I'm anticipating that means they want to be here all day. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that means in-person stuff for you or...
I hope so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That gal we talked to yesterday, I'm going to call her about it, the TF.
Okay.
And then we can structure it around being back here in spare time if we need to.
Okay.
I'll kind of chat with her and see what her interest level is and getting in the building.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. And there's one last word that we want to go over. Whimsical. Have you heard that word before? Whimsical?
No.
So whimsical is kind of fairy tale like fantasy. It's light. Yeah. So that just goes over the first page of words. So hopefully you'll have a little bit better idea. Okay, so I'm going to read the first. We're going to do what we normally do. I'm going to read the first page. We're going to reverse the order. Tom's going to read the second page. You get to read the third page, Jack. Okay, so chapter 4. We're going to start at the beginning. I walk along the gravel path that divides the back lawn. It has rained during the night. The grass is damp and the air is humid. There are worms on the ground, evidence of the fertile soil caught by the sun, half dead. I open the gate and look towards the driveway. In the driveway, one of the guardians assigned to our household is washing the car. That must mean the commander is in the house, in his own quarters, past the dining room, where he seems to stay most of the time. The car is very expensive. A whirlwind, that's the name of the car. Better than the Chariot, much better than the chunky, practical behemoth. It's black, long, and sleek. The driver is drying it lovingly. This, at least, hasn't changed, the way men caress good cars. In China, do men love cars as much as the American men are supposed to love their cars.
Like in China it's like kind of different from the U.S.
Yeah.
U.S. people like they treat their car as a tool,
Yeah.
but in China people treat their car like something to like what kind of car you have. I have like a high quality car. That if you tell people about it, like you will be things like you are like rich, you are higher class. They like,
Okay.
compete each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do men in China, would they go out and wash their cars and dry them and, so there's an idea in that Atwood is implying that men will always caress, they'll touch a car like they would touch a woman or a girlfriend, that with just such love and
I think so.
you think so? Yeah?
But like for me, no.
Not so much for you.
Okay.
Okay.
A car can kill yourself usually.
Yes.
It's way more dangerous
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
a woman.
Yeah. Okay. So the guard is wearing the uniform of the Guardians, so the official uniform, but his cap is tilted at an angle. So he's not military code, right? He's not wearing his cap straight forward like you would normally do in the military. It's turned to the side at an angle, and his sleeves are rolled up to the elbow, showing his forearms. So from here to here is your forearms, your elbow to your wrist. And his forearms are tan with dark hair. He has a cigarette stuck in the corner of his mouth, which shows that he too has something he can trade on the black market. So either he has information, he's got something physical that he can trade, an object, something, and he'll go to the black market and get cigarettes, which is against the rules. I know this man's name is Nick. I know this because I've heard Rita and Cora talking about him. And once I heard the commander speaking to him, Nick, I won't be needing the car. He lives here in the household over the garage. Low status. He hasn't been issued a woman. He doesn't rate. He must have some kind of defect. So he, on the hierarchy of men in Gileadian society, he's a low because they haven't let him have a wife. So he's low status.
Wait, like lower class doesn't allow to have a wife? Like lower class doesn't allow to have a wife?
They can't have wives. Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, so they can't have wives. And so she's saying he doesn't rate, which means that he's low on the status, so he's not a high level. And it's probably because he has some kind of defect. So maybe he's infertile. Maybe he can't have children, like he's sterile. Or maybe he could be disabled. He could, we don't know what. Atwood kind of alludes that his arms are tan with dark hair. So that could mean that his color of his skin is darker, which the Gileadian society is racist. So it could be that could be a reason too. We don't know. But he acts like he doesn't know that he's of lower status. Or he doesn't care. He acts too casual, not like a usual servant. So again, think military, think at attention, right? Yeah. When she walks by, he doesn't go to attention. He is too casual. He just keeps washing his car. He's not worried about what he looks like or what he's doing. It may be that he's stupid. Like he really doesn't know he's not supposed to be so casual. But she doesn't think so. Casual means, so let's say let's look at it from what it's not. So let's say that I greeted you formally. I would stand up, I would shake your hand, I would look at you, and I would say, hello, my name is so-and-so. But a casual greeting would be, hey, what's up? Right? So formal dress would be you're dressing in a suit and a tie all the time. Casual dress would be like a t-shirt and jeans. So you're not trying to impress anybody when you're casual, right? even when maybe you should be, if you're a guard and you're in the military and you're supposed to be looking a certain way. So in the military, it might be that, they're supposed to have their uniforms pressed neatly, shirts tucked in, everything, looking the way it's supposed to. So their military dress up garb would be like what they would wear in a parade or what they would wear in a some sort of military formal event. Their casual would be the camo pants that they wear, like when they are going into when they're just around on base walking around. So they might have like your camo shirt, camouflage shirt with like the camo pants and that. So that would be their casual. Yeah. But she doesn't think he's stupid. Smells fishy, they used to say, or I smell a rat. So she's suspicious of him. She doesn't know why he's being so casual. Despite myself, I think about what he may really smell like. So now we've switched from fish to now she's reminiscing about what does a man smell like. Yeah. Not fish or rats, but tanned skin filmed with smoke. I sigh, inhaling as if to smell the memory. So she's like, oh, I wonder what that smell is. She's trying to remember. He looks at me, and he sees me looking. He has a French face, lean, whimsical, with creases around the mouth where he smiles. So a French face is probably maybe a longer, she says lean, so I'm guessing like longer face. And a crease where he smiles. So she wouldn't know that unless he was smiling at her, right? He takes a final puff of the cigarette, lets it drop to the driveway, and steps on it. He begins to whistle. Then he winks. All right, Tom, it's you. And I have a misspelling. I spelled head wrong. It's H-E-A-D. The fourth word in.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
It's okay. We write when we write word, we make mistakes all the time.
Yeah. All right, so I'll have you start reading the second page, Tom.
So I drop my head and turn so that as the white wings hide my face and keeps walking. He's just taking a risk. But for what? What if I were to report him? Perhaps he was merely being friendly. Perhaps he saw the look on my face and mistook it for something else. But really what I want was the cigarette. Perhaps it was a test to see what I would do. Perhaps he is an eye.
All right, I'm going to stop right there. So she says what she really wanted was the cigarette, right? So remember, she saw him smoking. She took that really deep breath in, like to remember what that smell is. And perhaps he misunderstood why she was doing that. Perhaps he thought that she was interested in him. And so he took a risk because he's not supposed to interact with the handmaids.
I think it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Cigarette smells terrible.
I know.
Why people like it?
But maybe because she hasn't had it in so long, right? So maybe she knows it's something that she's not supposed to have, that she wants it. So she doesn't want to, if he's an eye, she's not going to respond anymore. So she turned her head away. All right, you can keep going.
I close the gate behind me, looking down, but not back. The sidewalk is red brick. That is what I focus on. Some of his brick some of his bricks.
The brick. Yeah, I spelled that wrong too. Some of the bricks.
Bricks are red from years of years of the ground freezing and thawing.
Mm-hmm.
But the color of the bricks is old, but the sidewalk is clean. Much cleaner than sidewalk used to be kept. I walk to the corner and wait. I used to be bad at waiting. They also serve those who only stand and wait. Said Aunt Lydia. She made us memorize it. She also said, "Not all of your will make it through. So some of you will fall on the dry ground or some. And some of you are shallow rooted." She had a mole of her chin that went up and down while she talked. Her voice was a wielding.
Wheedling.
Wheedling.
Mm-hmm.
Her voice was wheedling like the voice of those women who used to teach ballet classes to children and who would say, "Arms up in the air now. And let's pretend we are trees."
Okay, so that's a really confusing paragraph. That was confusing for me, and so I had to read it a couple of times. So basically, Alfred went to the corner to wait, and she says, "I used to be really bad at waiting," but she, in her like re-education camp, and Aunt Lydia was there, and Aunt Lydia talked to all the handmaids and said, "You aren't all going to make it through this experience of being a handmaid. And some of you will fall on dry ground or thorns, and some of you are shallow rooted." So some of you are, so that dry ground and thorns that's stress, right? You're going to buckle under the stress of being a handmaid. And then shallow roots means they aren't grounded in the Gileadian biblical philosophy. So some of you are shallow rooted. You don't actually hold to the tenets of this society. And so you're going to break the rules.
Oh.
And so that means that they won't make it out. Either they'll die, they'll run away, they'll be killed, any of those things, because they aren't, for whatever reason, they aren't strong enough. Aunt Lydia is saying they're not strong enough to make it through this trial that they're in, this stressful time of being a handmaid. And then it's funny, she said that Aunt Lydia has a mole on her chin. Do you know what a mole is? It's like it's like a big bump on a face. Sometimes it's darker color than the skin.
Yeah.
And she says that it's moving up and down. So Miss Lydia is trying to be really serious, right? She's like, "You guys may not make it through this. You got to toughen up." And as she's saying that, her mole is going up and down like this. So it's kind of hard to take her seriously when that's happening.
Like when I see the word mole, I think of the chemistry.
Oh yeah.
Mole.
So there's that kind of mole in chemistry, and there's also a mole which is an animal that lives in the ground. So this is the mole that's on her face. And then it says that she has a wheedling voice, which is kind of like a voice. Well, we have it in the. It's a soft words. So it's the way that a woman, someone might talk to a young child. "Oh, come on now, class. Let's raise our hands up and be trees." Instead of talking like a, So she's telling them something very serious. Like, some of you are going to die trying to do this. But she's doing it in a way that's so graceful and so nice. And then her mole is moving up and down. Okay. She can go with, "I stand on the corner."
I stand on the corner pretending I am a tree. A woman wearing a red outfit like mine hand me a red basket. I come along the brick sidewalk towards me. She reaches me and we peer at each other's face. Look, looking down the white tunnel of clothes that makes up our wings. She is the right one.
So they were peering, looking at each other. Peering means looking at each other's faces down the white tunnel of cloth. So normally people aren't allowed, right, to look at a handmaid, but these are two handmaids who are looking at each other.
Yeah.
And it says, she's the right one. What do you think that means? She's the right one.
She's a person for the fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we know that handmaids don't stay in one place all the time, right? So she's making sure that it really is her partner that she's supposed to be walking with, and she's not walking with a different partner. And then they greet each other.
Blessed be the fruit, she said to me, the accepted greeting among us. May the Lord opens, I answered, the accepted response. We turn and walk together past the large houses towards the center of town. We aren't allowed to go to town unless we are with a partner. This is supposed to be for our protection. To the idea is, I'm sorry, we are well protected already. The truth is that she is my spy. I am hers. If either of us breaks a rule, or either one of us breaks a rule on one of our daily walks, the other will be accountable.
Yeah. So blessed be the fruit. That's an acknowledgement of the egg inside a woman's body that can become a baby. Oh. And then may the Lord open. That means may you become pregnant. So that's their greeting to each other.
It's everything about pregnant.
Yeah, all about pregnant. Yeah, and so they're going into town. They're not, and they say they have to be in partners, which we talked about. And she says they tell us it's for our protection, but that's absurd. That doesn't even make sense.
It's like watching each other.
Yeah, they're spying on each other to make sure that nobody does anything they're not supposed to do.